Hey, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Welcome to this week's micro training. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about for this week was marking scriptures. I'm teaching in my institute class. I'm teaching First Nephi, and we just got to this one part, and I'm going to show this. I'm going to move this up out of the way somewhere here. But I love this part in Nephi had just finished having his vision after his father had his, and looking at those chapters at First Nephi 1 or 11 through 15 right in there, and you get to chapter 14, and he just gets back. I think it's maybe chapter 15, but he just comes back out of his tent and he finds his brothers arguing. And one of the questions they ask him is, they said, and they said unto me, what meaneth the rod which my father saw that led to the tree? And I said unto them that it was the word of God. And whosoever would hearken unto the word of God, and would hold fast unto it, they would never perish. Neither could the temptations and the fiery darts of the adversary overpower them unto blindness, to lead them away to destruction. I think one of the great privileges that we have as teachers of the youth in the seminary program is to help them develop this love for the scriptures, the word of God. One of the blessings that we have is that they're able to hold this in their hands and in their phones. And one of the things that I would really challenge is to really help them develop a love for marking their scriptures as they discover things and as they find things in there, to mark them in a way that is meaningful to them. I'm going to show a little clip from Elder Oaks where a seminary student asked Elder Oaks a question about marking the scriptures. And he says something right at the end that I think is just so powerful. So just watch this, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
So how do you mark your scriptures? Like, what's some advice you can give us seminary students on how we can mark our scriptures better?
Kelsey, there are a lot of different ways to mark scriptures. Some people do it with highlights of different colors, some underline. I don't know that there's any one way that is recommended as the very best way. I think it's important to mark the scriptures, but it's important to mark them in a way that will help you find your way back to them. And personally, what I do with the scriptures is to, let's see, I'll illustrate that with this page. I've spoken earlier of the calling of Samuel. I write at the top of the page, Samuel called, so that if I'm flipping through the scriptures, I can find my way back to that. And then on the passage that I thought was so significant, that all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew the Lord had called a prophet, I mark in the margin, or I underline, so that I get to the page by something at the top of the page, and then I drop down on the page to the things that have seemed significant to me. And I do my marking just with a lead pencil. I like that because then I can erase it if for some reason I want to change my marking. There are a lot of different ways. That's just my way to do it.
The one thing I really liked that he said there is mark them in a way that it makes you want to come back to them. I really love that idea. I think we've all been in that situations where we've had our scriptures and we become so familiar with them that when someone else hands us, if we have someone else's scriptures and we're trying to look at something, we have a hard time finding it. And I've heard people say, well, that's kind of a bad thing because you really don't know where they're at. But I think there's something about having those scriptures and making them yours, and you feel comfortable with them, and it makes you want to come back and come back to them, and you know where things are because you're familiar with it, and you've marked it in a way that is personalized it to you. And I just challenge you that as you are going through this school year with your students, to really give them opportunities to mark and to personalize their scriptures. And show them different ways. I think we've talked about this before. Whether it's phone, there's so many things you can do with phone. We ought to do some video on phone. It's just amazing the stuff that you can do with the phone scriptures. But those kids that use their paper scriptures or even on their phone, the principle's still the same. Have them mark it in a way that makes them want to come back to it, and it personalizes it, and it gives them ownership of it. And I think those that they will have, as they're marking those things. And I think I love how Elder Oak said, I use a lead pencil, and I write at the top of the page, and then here's the things I want to think of, that have stood out to me, words and phrases and principles and things that draw his attention back to those things. So just something for you to think about. Of all the things that we do, help your students develop a love for those scriptures and the words of Christ that are found there. Thank you. Have a great week. Thanks for all you're doing, and we'll see you next week.